There's a story I love about the year 2000. Reed Hastings, the founder of a scrappy little startup called Netflix, flies to Dallas for a meeting with Blockbuster.
Right.
He walks into this huge boardroom, probably sweating a little, and he makes them an offer. He says, "Buy us for $50 million. We'll run your online brand."
And do you know what the Blockbuster execs did?
They laughed him out of the room.
They literally laughed. They thought it was a complete joke.
And looking back, it's so easy for us to sit here and say, wow, how could they be so stupid? But today, I want to challenge that.
Okay.
I don't think they were stupid. I think they were actually being logical. They were operating perfectly within the rules of the game as they understood them.
That's a really fair assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're the king of the hill, the view is great, but it can also be incredibly blinding. Blockbuster was winning the game they were playing. The problem was, Netflix wasn't even trying to win that game. They were inventing a new one.
And that right there is the core of what we're doing today. We are doing a deep dive into a transcript from Learning BizCraft called "The Business Strategy That Made Netflix a $300 billion Giant."
Right.
But we aren't just recounting the history of streaming. We are taking apart the actual mechanics of what the source calls the blue ocean strategy.
And for everyone listening, this isn't just, some marketing buzzword. This is about structural economics.
Okay.
It's about how you break the fundamental trade-offs of business, specifically that trade-off between value and cost.
Which, if you've ever taken a Business 101 class, you know is supposed to be impossible. You can be cheap or you can be premium.
You can't be both.
Yeah, be both. But we'll get to how Netflix sort of broke that law of physics in a bit. First, we have to look at the water Blockbuster was swimming in. The source calls it a red ocean.
It's a vivid metaphor, isn't it? A red ocean represents all the industries that already exist today, the known market space.
So everyone's in the same pool.
Exactly. In a red ocean, industry boundaries are defined and accepted, and the competitive rules of the game are known.
So in the video rental world, the rules were rent a physical store, stock it with popular movies, and then charge people when they keep the movie too long.
That's it. And because the rules are known, everyone plays the same way. You had Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, Movie Gallery, thousands of little independent stores.
All fighting for the same customers.
All fighting for the same share of the wallet. And when a market gets that crowded, profits and growth just decline. The competition turns the water bloody. Hence, the red ocean.
Okay, but let's look at the economics of that red ocean, because the source points out something really interesting about Blockbuster's business model. It wasn't just unfriendly to customers. It was, almost predatory.
It was a structural dependency on customer failure. Think of the late fees.
Right, the dreaded late fees.
At their peak, late fees accounted for something like 16% of Blockbuster's total revenue.
16%. That is a massive chunk of your profit, just depending on your customers messing up.
It's a perverse incentive. If your customers are perfectly organized and return everything on time, your stock price actually drops.
That's wild.
Precisely. But there's another layer to this red ocean trap. The source highlights the infrastructure of physical stores.
All that overhead.
All the high costs. You have rent, utilities, staffing for thousands and thousands of locations. In a red ocean, you usually compete by trying to lower these costs just a little bit. Maybe you hire one fewer clerk, or you open smaller stores.
You're just tweaking the margins.
But you can't escape the basic cost structure itself. You're just fighting for scraps, trying to squeeze an extra 1% margin out of a market that's already full.
So if you're a standard business thinker back then, you look at Netflix in, say, 1999 or 2000, and you just don't see a threat. You see a niche player.
Exactly.
Well, let's be honest about that. Early Netflix was a niche player. I want to push back on this idea that Netflix was a blue ocean company from day one.
That's a crucial distinction.
When they started sending DVDs in the mail, weren't they just playing the same game, but, slower?
That is such an important point, and the source actually calls this out. They classify the DVD by mail era as a logistical variation, not a full strategic shift. So technically, yes, they were still in the red ocean of physical media.
They were still moving atoms. They still had to buy the DVDs, warehouse them, and ship them out.
Right. But, and this is where the pivot really begins, they started using what blue ocean theorists call the 4 actions framework.
The 4 questions.
The 4 questions. What to eliminate, what to reduce, what to raise, and what to create.
So even in the mail order days, they were tinkering with this.
They started by eliminating one thing.
The late fees.
The late fees, which, If you're looking at Blockbuster's book sounds completely insane, you're voluntarily giving up 16% of potential revenue.
It sounds crazy if you're playing by the red ocean rules.
Exactly. But Netflix realized that the late fee was the single biggest pain point for customers. By eliminating it, they didn't just be nice. They fundamentally altered the relationship with the customer.
It went from transactional to relational?
Precisely. It shifted from, I pay for this movie for 2 days, to, I subscribe to this service.
But hold on, if it was just about being nicer and not charging fees, why didn't Blockbuster just copy them? They had the brand, the inventory. They could have launched Blockbuster by mail and just crushed Netflix in a month.
They actually tried. But this brings us to the cannibalization problem.
Ah.
If Blockbuster aggressively pushed a no late fee mail service, they would be actively destroying their own most profitable revenue stream, the late fees, and driving traffic away from their expensive physical stores.
So their own success was like a straitjacket. They couldn't move because they had too much invested in the old way of doing things.
They were addicted to the red ocean. Netflix, on the other hand, had no stores to protect. They had nothing to lose.
But frankly, if Netflix had stayed as a DVD by mail company, we probably wouldn't be talking about them today.
Oh, probably not. The post office is a huge constraint. Physical disks break, logistics are expensive.
So let's get to the real shift. The moment the water turned from red to blue, the introduction of streaming.
This is the game changer described in the source. And this is where the concept of the blue ocean really crystallizes. A blue ocean is an uncontested market space.
You're not competing with anyone.
Because no one else is doing what you're doing.
And the constraints that held everyone else back, just poof, they vanished.
Let's look at the constraints the source lists. First, physical availability. In a store, if you have 10 copies of a new release and 11 people want it, well, you have a problem.
Someone goes home empty-handed.
With streaming, 10 million people can watch the same movie at the exact same second.
Which means the marginal cost of serving the next customer drops to almost zero.
Correct. And that brings us to the most complex concept in the source, and the one that I think is the most misunderstood, value innovation.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because in traditional business strategy, Michael Porter, competitive advantage, all that stuff, we are taught there's a rigid trade-off. You can be a differentiator, so high value, high cost, like an Apple or a Rolex, or you can be a cost leader, low value, low cost, like Walmart.
But you can't be both. If you try, you get stuck in the middle and you die.
That's the classic dogma.
And value innovation just says, wrong. Value innovation happens when companies align innovation with utility, price, and cost positions. It's about pursuing differentiation and low cost simultaneously.
How is that even possible? How can you give me more value for less money without going bankrupt?
You do it by changing the unit of analysis.
Right.
Let's just look at the Netflix equation.
Okay.
First, the value side. They dramatically raised convenience, instant access. They created the whole idea of on-demand binge watching. The value to you, the consumer, is exponentially higher than driving to a store.
Okay, so value is way up, but then costs should go up too.
But they didn't. They went down. Because Netflix eliminated the expensive physical infrastructure.
No stores, no clerks.
No inventory management of plastic discs. They replace high variable costs, like shipping DVDs and staffing stores, with high fixed costs, like building the tech platform and licensing content.
I see. So once that platform is built, adding subscriber number 100 million costs them basically nothing.
Exactly. So the cost per subscriber plummets, which lets them charge a low subscription fee, what was it, $8 or $10 back in the day?
Right.
While the value to that subscriber skyrockets, that gap where value goes up and cost goes down, that is the blue ocean.
And that's why Blockbuster couldn't compete. It wasn't just that they were slow, it's that their basic math didn't work. They couldn't offer unlimited movies for $10 a month because their cost structure required them to charge $5 a movie just to pay for the building and the lights.
Blockbuster was playing checkers, and Netflix was playing 4D chess. By the time Blockbuster even realized the game had changed, they were already checkmated.
The competition became irrelevant.
Which is the ultimate goal of blue ocean strategy.
Okay, but here's where I want to get a little skeptical for a minute. We're painting this picture of Reed Hastings as this prophet who saw the future perfectly. But let's look at the context of, say, 2007, 2010.
Sure.
Streaming was awful. I mean, the quality was bad, the internet was slow, the selection was mostly B-movies.
Oh, absolutely. It was not a perfect product.
So why did it work? Why didn't people just stick with their high-quality DVDs?
Because the value innovation of immediacy outweighed the reduction in quality.
Ah.
And this is another key lesson. You don't have to be perfect at everything. You just have to be overwhelmingly good at the one thing the customer cares about most. And it turns out we care more about watching something right now than we care about 4K resolution.
Convenience is king. We are fundamentally lazy creatures.
We are, and Netflix bet the entire farm on that laziness.
Now, I want to pivot to the present day because the source material focuses on how Netflix became a giant. But if we apply these same blue ocean rules to, let's say, right now, the picture looks very different.
It certainly does. If a blue ocean is an uncontested market space, well, look at streaming today.
It's a bloodbath. You've got Disney Plus, Majin, Max, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Hulu, Peacock. Everyone has a platform.
Everyone is pulling their content back to their own little walled gardens.
The ocean is turned red again.
It really has. We're back to fragmentation. I have to subscribe to 4 different services to get the shows I want. Prices are going up.
And ironically, some of them are introducing ads and cracking down on password sharing. It feels like we're just recreating the old cable bundle, but over the internet.
That is the inevitable life cycle of strategy.
Yeah.
A blue ocean doesn't stay blue forever. As soon as you prove there's money in the water, the sharks come. The imitators arrive.
So using the logic from our source, what should Netflix do? If they are back in a red ocean, fighting for market share, battling customer churn, what's their next blue ocean shift?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. And you could see them trying things. They're moving into gaming. They're experimenting with live events like sports and comedy specials.
They're trying to find the next uncontested space.
Because if they just stick to, we stream movies and TV shows, they are just a utility. They are just the new Blockbuster.
Wow, that's a terrifying thought for them, I'm sure. But it proves the point. Value innovation isn't a one-time achievement. It's a continuous process.
You have to keep swimming or you drown.
Let's go back to that 4 actions framework, because I think that's the most actionable takeaway for anyone listening. If you're running a business or even just managing a team, how do you apply this? It's not just about inventing streaming.
No, it's much more practical than that. It starts with looking at your industry's best practices, the things everyone just takes for granted, and asking why.
Why do we do it this way?
Why do we have late fees? Why do we require customers to sign a 12-month contract? Why do we force people to buy a whole album when they only want one song?
It's about identifying the pain points that everyone else just ignores because, well, that's just how it works.
Right. Blockbuster ignored the pain of late fees because it was profitable. The record industry ignored the pain of buying a $20 CD for one-hit single because it was profitable.
And Apple and Netflix looked at those pain points and saw an opportunity.
So the question to ask is, what is the late fee of your industry? What is the thing your customers absolutely hate, but they tolerate because they feel like they have no other choice?
Find that, and you're on your way.
Identify that, eliminate it, and you create a blue ocean. But, and this is the hard part, you usually have to be willing to cannibalize your own current success to do it.
You have to be willing to be Netflix, destroying your own DVD business to build the streaming business.
And most leaders just don't have the stomach for that.
That's the classic innovator's dilemma. It's hard to disrupt yourself when the checks are still clearing.
It's incredibly hard. But as we saw with Blockbuster, the alternative is extinction.
Before we wrap up, I want to touch on one last concept from the source, reconstructing market boundaries. We talked about looking across industries. Netflix didn't just look at other video stores. They looked at how people consumed entertainment in general.
Yes. They realized they weren't just competing with Blockbuster, they were competing with a bottle of wine. They were competing with sleep.
They were competing with boredom. Reed Hastings actually said that, didn't he? Sleep is our competition.
He did. And that's a blue ocean mindset right there. If you think you're competing with the other store down the street, you fight over price. If you think you're competing for the customer's limited leisure time, you innovate on value.
So to recap the mechanics of this whole shift, 1, stop looking at the competitor, look at the customer.
2, don't accept the trade-off between value and cost. Actively try to break it.
3, use that 4 actions framework. Eliminate the things that don't add value, even if they make money in the short term.
And 4, accept that every blue ocean eventually turns red, so you can never stop scanning the horizon for the next one.
It's a fascinating case study. It takes all that nostalgia we have for the video store and reveals the brutal, beautiful efficiency of strategic evolution.
It really does. It's a reminder that business as usual is usually the riskiest plan of all.
So here is my final thought for you listening right now. We often apply these big concepts to giant corporations, but what about your own career?
Hmm.
What about your own projects?
Hmm.
Are you swimming in a red ocean? Are you competing on the same metrics as everyone else, working longer hours, answering emails faster, trying to be just marginally better than the person in the next cubicle?
That's a powerful question. Are you fighting for scraps in a crowded market?
And if you are, what is your value innovation? How can you change the game so that you aren't competing at all?
Maybe it's a new skill you can develop. Maybe it's a niche that nobody else is even looking at.
Maybe it's eliminating the busy work that everyone else thinks is essential and focusing entirely on the one output that actually drives real value.
Find your blue ocean
Stop paying the late fees of life.
and start streaming your own path.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you in the next one.